On February 16th, 2026, at an all-star game that for the first time pitted the United States against the rest of the world, something happened that seemed symbolic until it stopped being so. A 24-year-old player took control of the game, scored from outside, attacked the rim without mercy, ignited the crowd, closed out the game, and won the MVP. It wasn't LeBron James, nor Stephen Curry, nor Kevin Durant. It was Anthony Edwards. And the most unsettling thing wasn't that he dominated, but that it seemed inevitable. But the real question isn't why he played well that night, but how the United States came to desperately need a player like him. For more than 2 decades, American basketball lived under the shadow or the light of figures like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James. They weren't just superstars. They were living mythologies, players capable of turning every game into a spectacle and every defeat into a personal affront. But at the beginning of the 2020s, something started to change. The NBA was still full of talent, but the center of the game was shifting. The new dominant faces came from outside the United States. Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, and Joel Embiid. For the first time, the narrative of the league and world basketball no longer revolved around an American. In the national team, something even more unsettling happened. The United States team stopped looking invincible. In the 2023 FIBA World Cup, for example, the team finished 4th, even though Edwards was their leading scorer. The implicit message was brutal. The talent existed, but something more was missing. A figure, a character, an alpha was missing until Anthony Edwards appeared. He wasn't raised in an environment designed to produce superstars. He was born in Atlanta in 2001. His father was absent. His mother and grandmother died when he was just 14 years old, and both are the reason why Anthony Edwards was number 5. For years, the sport that seemed to be his destiny wasn't basketball. It was American football. He was a prodigious running back, but basketball had something different: total control. A player can dominate the game with the ball in his hands. He can decide. That background matters because it explains something key. Edwards doesn't play to fit in. He plays to impose his will. The 2020 draft happened during the pandemic without a traditional March Madness, without final tournaments that consolidated narratives. The 3 names at the top were Edwards, LaMelo Ball, and James Wiseman. None were considered an indisputable generational talent. Edwards came from the University of Georgia, a program that wasn't competing for national championships. His stats were good, but not historic. His team didn't even make the tournament. To many scouts, this raised uncomfortable questions. Could he lead a winning team? Would his offensive efficiency improve? Did he really love basketball? That's why when the Minnesota Timberwolves chose him in 2020, the basketball world didn't react with euphoria. It reacted with a collective shrug. Not because he was bad, but because nobody knew exactly what he was going to be. In an interview before the draft, Edwards said something that alarmed half the league: that American football was his favorite sport. It wasn't meant with bad intentions. It was pure honesty. But in a world where teams invest hundreds of millions in a number 1 pick, that phrase sounded like an alarm siren, because talent, without obsession, rarely produces historic superstars. Edwards seemed to have everything, except the classic narrative of the gym, rat obsessed with the ball. Physically, Edwards was almost the perfect experiment. 1.93 m tall, over 100 kilograms of muscle, elite explosiveness, a devastating first step, absurd jumping ability, and huge defensive potential. Many scouts said he was the best athlete in the draft, but also the most tactically undisciplined. His game in Georgia showed flashes of a superstar followed by questionable decisions. It was as if 2 versions lived inside the same player: a future MVP and an inefficient scorer on a mediocre team. Meanwhile, for Minnesota, the choice was especially critical because the franchise had been trapped in irrelevance for years. They had 2 important pieces, Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell, but something essential was missing: a player who would change the team's identity. Not just an all-star, but an emotional engine. Choosing Edwards was betting on explosive potential and accepting the risk. For years, The NBA remained the best basketball in the world, but something intangible had been diluted. It wasn't the talent, the audiences, or the points per game. It was the stage fright that American superstars caused. After the competitive sunset of figures like Kobe and the progressive aging of LeBron James, the emotional center of the league became more technical, efficient, and less visceral. Meanwhile, international players dominated with different styles. Jokic, Doncic, Giannis. Cerebral genius, absolute control of tempo, unstoppable methodical power. All incredible, none intimidating in the classic theatrical sense. The United States hadn't lost talent. It had lost dominant stage presence. And then Anthony Edwards appeared. Ant-Man plays as if every possession were a personal challenge. He doesn't just look to score. He looks to impose himself physically. His explosiveness isn't aesthetic. It's brutal. When he attacks the rim, it doesn't look like he's going to finish. It looks like he's going to destroy something. This brings to mind eras where American play imposed immediate physical respect. His style combines a devastating first step, contact power worthy of a running back, explosive lift, and constant aggression. In a league where many stars prioritize efficiency from the three-point line, he brings back the frontal attack. The spectacle isn't just physical, it's emotional. Edwards celebrates, shouts, smiles, provokes, and enjoys himself. He doesn't seem to act for the cameras. He seems to forget they exist. That trait is extremely rare in the current era, where many athletes are conscious of their public image. His body language conveys something very specific. He is enjoying himself while he dominates, and that connects instantly with the public. The spectacle also depends on context. The Minnesota Timberwolves have been a peripheral franchise for decades. But when Edwards explodes, the team becomes impossible to ignore. His games become viral events. His highlights dominate social media. His playoff performances attract global audiences. He didn't just change the team's performance. He changed its cultural relevance. Edwards doesn't just want to play well. He wants to be the best player in the world. And he says it because talent without a dominant mentality doesn't create legends. In the modern NBA, many players avoid absolute statements, preferring mutual respect and media prudence. Edwards belongs to another tradition. When asked about his level, he responds that he is the best with disarming naturalness. One of the clearest indicators of an alpha mentality is what happens in the final minutes. Edwards asks for the ball. He doesn't wait for hierarchy, he establishes it. In the 2024 Olympic Games, the United States reclaimed gold with a roster full of legends and stars, but Edwards represented something different: the future. While figures like LeBron James, Stephen Curry, and Kevin Durant approach the end of their careers, Anthony Edwards is not just an emerging superstar. He is the answer to several simultaneous crises in American basketball: identity crisis, lack of alpha aggression, loss of visceral spectacle, the passing of the torch from legends, and a need for authentic charisma. The United States didn't just need another great player. It needed someone to remind the world how it feels when an American superstar dominates with their own personality. Anthony Edwards is that. Generational talent, natural charisma, pure competitive mentality, a symbol of the changing of the guard. Beyond his statistics or his viral plays, what truly makes Edwards' rise feel inevitable is how he has managed to strip the league of that aura of corporate cynicism that seemed to dominate the game over the last decade. While other stars navigate between the rigor of media plans and the caution of social media, Ant presents himself as a living anachronism. An athlete who seems to play basketball not for the contract, nor for the legacy, but for the pure, visceral need to demonstrate on every possession that he is the absolute owner of the court. That authenticity is not just a personality trait. It is his greatest competitive weapon. By having no fear of failure, by not trying to be perfect, he has infected a new generation of American players who, finally, are returning to play with that blend of swagger and joy that had disappeared from the hardwood. His impact transcends the rim. Edwards is not just saving American basketball. He is rescuing its competitive soul, reminding us that In this sport, the greatest victory is not the ring, but the ability to look your rival in the eyes and convince him that no matter what happens, he simply cannot stop you. We don't know if he will be the best player of his era, but we know something more important. He is the first in a long time who feels inevitable.